So hello, my name is Diamond, aka Lady Leo, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you are a brand new viewer. So I am a lover of all things movies, TV shows, nail polish, makeup. My hope is that you find something on my channel that you like and hit that subscribe button because I would definitely love to have you. So I want to talk about a movie that I've been wanting to see for quite a while, and I missed it in theaters, but I did catch it on streaming last week, so I wanted to talk about it, and that is Past Lives. Lives is the directorial debut for Celine Song, and I think when I looked at her on IMDb, she's only had one other credit, which is like a staff writing credit on The Wheel of Time. I do love that show though. But anyway, this is her directorial debut. It stars Greta Lee and TU. So I've been wanting to see this movie for a while because there was like a period in like June or July where this movie was being like heavily marketed to me. Like I'd never heard of the movie before, and then I watch a lot of YouTube, and every single time it seemed like for like weeks on end I was getting marketing, like little 30-second clips to go see this movie, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll finally go see this movie. So I think when I look at on IMDb, the movie originally came out in January of 2023. My assumption is that it was in limited release because I don't remember seeing it in theaters back in January, and then it came out in a more wide release in June or July, which makes sense, which is when I started getting adverts for it and when I saw it in theaters. Now, this is a much smaller film, so it wasn't in wide release long before it got pushed out of the box office. I did sort of put my ticket in to go see it a couple times, like during the work week, but I gotta stop lying to myself and telling myself that I'm going to see a movie on a Tuesday. It does not usually end up happening. So I missed my chance to see this in theaters because after a couple of weeks, like I said, it had been pushed out of the box office, at least in terms of the theater that's closest to my house. So I finally caught it on streaming last weekend, and it is available on Amazon. I'm sure it might be available on Vudu too, but I ended up purchasing it on Amazon because I just had some promotional credits and it wasn't available to rent, and that's okay. I ended up really liking the movie, so it's not a bad thing. So this movie is about Nora and Haesung. Haesung? I hope I say his name right. If I mispronounce it, I'm so sorry. So it's about these two who are childhood friends. They grow up together in South Korea, and at about age 12, Nora and her family immigrate to the United States, whereas Haesung stays in Korea. And 12 years later, these two reconnect, mainly because Haesung put on his Facebook that he was looking to get a hold of Nora, and Nora wasn't genuinely looking for him. She just happened to be looking up old friends or things like that with her mom, and then she started thinking about Haesung, and that's when she went to see if he had like a Facebook profile, and and saw that he was looking for her. They reconnected, and they ended up sort of talking via like, it doesn't look like Skype, but some sort of video messaging thing that they use on their laptop. It doesn't say how long they were talking via this format, but I have to assume at least several months to a year. And then eventually they stop talking to each other because they have a lot going on in their lives, and their lives aren't sort of like going on the same path that will enable them to see each other. And then another 12 years passes before they see each other in person. So that is kind of like the basic gist of the film. But the film, it's such a quiet film, and just quiet in the sense that there's so many things that are said in such a subtle way. And it's really about the unmade choices in life, right? The choices that you don't make, or the paths that your life could have gone down if this set of circumstances had been different, if you had decided to do this, if this had happened, and what happens when you sit in those choices and you stew in them, and how your life can be stunted by them. And it's such a thought-provoking film. Like, there's nothing in this film that's like this big thing, but there's so many elements that happen in it that are just, like I said, they're really thought-provoking, and I really enjoyed this movie. And it's such an interesting thing too, because I can remember like watching the movie at certain points, and because I really like Haesung and I like Nora together, like they have really strong chemistry, I kept thinking to myself, like, I hope they end up together. I hope they get together. But at the end of the movie, I realized it wasn't about them getting together, especially because like by the time they actually meet up in person, spoiler alert, spoiler alert too, by the way, if you haven't seen this film, maybe check it out before you like look at this. But by the time they actually meet up in person towards the end of the film, it's been like 24 years since they've seen each other. So they went from 12 to however old you are after 24 years. So they're in the mid 30s. Nora's been married for like 7 years. And Hae-sung was probably seeing somebody for a while because it said he broke up with her. Seems to be recently. So, and Nora proclaims several times that she's very happily married, right? And that she's not just gonna like leave. But like I said, there's so many subtle things about this movie, but you can tell that Nora feels this pull to Hae-sung. And I don't think she would do anything like that, but it's such a, I don't know, this movie is just really good. There's this scene at the end, because like I said, I found myself like rooting for the two of them, even though in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, Nora's married, but I'm like rooting for her to be with my son. I don't even, and that's terrible, absolutely terrible. But there's this moment at the end where he comes to New York and he's only there for a few days, and they spend a couple of days together. And there's like this moment at the end of the movie, and the way the movie is shot is just really great. I also think like the way this movie is shot is so subtle, and it feels like you're an observer, but not in an obtrusive way. I feel like the last 20 or 30 minutes, I just really kind of noticed how how the movie is filmed and the cinematography. There's a really great scene where Hae-sung comes, so basically in the last 20 or 30 minutes, what ends up happening is they end up meeting for the first time in like 24 years. So yes, they reconnected after 12 years, but that was all via like laptop. So this is the first time they've seen each other in person since they were kids. So after they spent a couple days together, Hae-sung meets her husband Arthur. They decide to go to dinner and drinks. So drinks is like the last 20 minutes of the movie. And essentially the way the shot is that you have the camera over here. So you have the camera like, imagine the background's the camera. And then right over there is them. And you have it framed in such a way where like Nora's in the center. And you have Hae-sung on her, sorry, left and right. So it's her right. Hae-sung's on her right and her husband's on her left. And essentially like the whole camera, like the camera can see all three of them at that point. And what's really happening is that Arthur and Hae-sung are having a conversation, and he's answering as best he can in English because it's not his first language. And then whenever he can't answer in English, Nora's translating in Korean to him. But there's like a shift in the conversation where the camera starts to kind of slowly pan in more on Nora and Hae-sung, where she's not translating anymore because he's talking directly to her and not really to Arthur anymore. And Arthur kind of notices this, and I'm just like, wow, that would be a wild experience as a partner, right? To have your wife having a conversation with her childhood love in a language that you speak a little bit, but not enough to like know fully what they're saying. And you know they're talking, but you don't know what they're talking about. Like that would make me wildly uncomfortable. But Arthur is such a good person and a good husband, and he trusts his wife. He doesn't say anything. He just sits there and he lets them have a conversation. And honestly, the conversation that the two of them are having is such a good conversation. And it's a really beautiful conversation. This film is so quiet and so soft and so subtle, but it still speaks volumes. And basically, they are walking to like get an Uber. And so the camera's like kind of almost across the street, if you will, and it's moving in tandem with them, and it walks the whole way there. And then they wait for the Uber to come. Hae-sung puts his stuff in the car, and then he goes back to Nora and he asks her, maybe this is a past life. You know, if so, what would happen to us in the next or whatever? And she's like, I don't know. Sorry, but before that happens, like, so the camera follows them, they're going to wait for an Uber, and it's this really, it seems like a really long time. Like I'm sure if I had to like stop the thing and do the time, it probably would be less than 60 seconds. But what ends up happening is you have the two of them standing there, not saying anything to each other. At first, they're not even really looking at each other. They're not facing each other, but they kind of look at each other every few seconds. And then they shift their body where they're directly facing each other. And in my mind, like as a watcher, I'm like, oh my God, are they going to kiss? Forgetting that she has a husband. Like, I know she has a husband. I'm like, is it going to happen? It's going to happen. Because it's almost like this tug of war in the most subtle way where I feel like they're inching towards each other, but they're also stopping each other. And it doesn't happen. They don't kiss. And essentially he leaves, and we pan back as Nora walks back to her husband, and she just breaks down in tears. And he comforts her, and they go inside their house. And that's how the movie ends. And I just love that. I love that she doesn't end up with him. I mean, she even says when her husband asks her, she's like, yeah, I'm going to leave you and my life here for Haesung. It's just, oh my gosh. It's just a really good movie. Also, props to the husband. I don't know if I've said this in my video or if I'm going to include it, but props to the husband whose name is Arthur. You have to be a very good partner, very secure, and trust your partner to be able to like tolerate something like this, like having your wife's first love come into town. They spend a couple of days together without you, and he becomes very insecure, which is natural. It would be natural for anybody to develop an insecurity for something like this, but he becomes insecure, and he starts asking his wife questions about what would have happened if she had stayed in Korea or if she had met with him. And, you know, the thing that I really appreciate about their relationship is how honest they are with each other and how comfortable they can be being honest. There's even a period where Arthur asks her, are you attracted to him? And she answers very honestly, and she says, I don't think I am. And I think some partners might be like, wow, you don't know if you're attracted to him. But that's a pretty good way to answer for somebody who's she's never met him in person as an adult. She's only seen him in person when they were children. And then, of course, they had a period where they were talking via laptop. So it's a very honest response for her to be like, I don't think I'm attracted to him. I don't know if I would be attracted to him. So I really like the relationship between them because I think it's a really good representation of it's a really good representation of a healthy relationship, and how complex emotions can be, you know. So I just wanted to shout out Arthur because I don't know too many spouses who could be down for that without it creating this rift in their relationship. And throughout the whole thing, he's very supportive of Nora. You know, and like I said, at the end, he comforts Nora because that was probably it was a pretty emotional experience for Nora to have all that happen. And even though she has chosen Arthur and this is her life, I think there's a part of her that would have wanted to know what would have happened with Haesung as well. So anyway, that was Past Lives. So in case it's not clear, I really, really loved Past Lives. I thought it was a really great film, and I'm really glad that I saw it, finally. I don't really think I would have needed to see it in theaters. It's not one of those movies that, to me, is like needing to be seen in theaters. But I do hope when award season comes around that it is considered. I do think there's a lot of really great things about the movie, from the way that it's shot, directed, to the acting in the movie. So I would really love to see it win awards. I always like to see films that I'm really happy, excited about to see win awards. But anyway, have you guys seen Past Lives? Are you interested in seeing it? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Check me out on all of my socials and check out any of my reviews that are up as of yet. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you later. Bye.